So ticket sales are low for WrestleMania in Las Vegas, and I have no sympathy for TKO and Endeavor. I mean, what do they expect? Fans are not going to pay thousands of dollars for a second year in a row for WrestleMania. TKO is now starting to feel the consequences for their greed. Bron Breakker's injury is definitely devastating, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time, considering the build for WrestleMania so far has been kind of lackluster, and we're still early on in the build to WrestleMania, so there's a lot of time left. But considering where WWE was positioning Bron Breakker, this really does suck. The pre-sale for AEW All In is going to be taking place a day after Revolution. I wonder why. Does Warner Brothers Discovery own a minority stake in AEW? I'm starting to believe yes, but again, it's a minority stake. It's not like they own 90% of the company, which is absolutely ridiculous.
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kurt Angle, yeah. Why, Triple H, you son of a tell me why. And Tony Khan, this is also on you.
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it.
What is up? What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is yours truly, Flamin' Rooker Key DeRays, on this day after Valentine's Day, Sunday, February 15th, 2026. Of course, this is the WrestleHavoc podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. Of course, we got a lot of things to talk about regarding professional wrestling. Primarily, we're going to be talking about WrestleMania 42. WrestleMania 42, of course, is in the news considering the fact that the ticket sales for WrestleMania 42 are not looking too good. I guess karma is really something in terms of WWE, Endeavor, and TKO. But we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker is, from what it looks like, going to be out with an injury. And also, what sucks about this is that, of course, it's going to once again change plans for WrestleMania 42. We're also going to be talking about AEW's Grand Slam Australia. Yes, Grand Slam Australia took place, of course, on Valentine's Day. And there was a lot of things that went down on that show. And I thought it was a pretty good show from top to bottom overall. So we're going to be talking about that as well. All In, the pre-sale date for All In has been announced. And I'm going to be talking about why that date is very important considering the pre-sale date for All In is actually going to be taking place the day after AEW Revolution. So it's going to spark a lot of speculation on my end and a lot of other fans' hands as well. We're also going to be talking about Double or Nothing. The location has been announced for this year's Double or Nothing, as well as Brody King. A lot of people were saying, and primarily the Dave Meltzers of the world were saying, that Warner Brothers Discovery single-handedly banned Brody King from, showing up on AEW Dynamite, which that was not the case. So Dave Meltzer got caught lying, or maybe he wasn't lying. Maybe somebody spread false information from the locker room, because clearly that AEW locker room, I don't care what anybody says, that locker room has a tendency to spread a lot of false information dating back to when CM Punk was in the company. And I genuinely believe that there is a mole in that AEW locker room. Who that is, I have absolutely no idea. So somebody must have spread false information to Dave Meltzer. And WBD even issued a statement saying that we did not do anything with Brody King. He just wasn't on the show. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So we got a lot of things right here that we're going to be talking about on this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc podcast channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys are watching on WNN platforms, I thank you guys so much for watching me on those platforms as well. And without any further ado, let's get straight into talking about all things professional wrestling. So we're going to be starting off with our main topic, and that is, of course, WrestleMania 42. Of course, the story of WrestleMania 42 is actually quite hilarious, considering the fact that The original location for WrestleMania 42 was supposed to be in New Orleans, Louisiana. Of course, WWE was set to return to New Orleans, Louisiana for the third time. Of course, the first time WWE had WrestleMania New Orleans was all the way back in 2014, and then they returned back in 2018 with WrestleMania 34. And they were set to return to New Orleans this year for WrestleMania. They even had The Rock, of all people, show up and make the announcement that, hey, WrestleMania 42 is going to be in New Orleans, Louisiana for both nights. But, of course, months later, WWE backed out of the deal because they got paid more money by Las Vegas. And look, I understand it is a business, even though it sounds shady as hell, but WWE does have the power. They have the leverage to do stuff like that because of the fact that they're just so freaking big. But, of course, they got paid an exorbitant amount of money by Las Vegas, and a lot of people were very, very, very upset about this decision, primarily fans, primarily the people in the New Orleans area. Of course, I have a couple of friends in New Orleans that were very upset about this decision. Also, fans were definitely planning to go to WrestleMania New Orleans, considering, even though ticket prices were probably going to be expensive, considering it is WrestleMania, and of course, the climate of buying tickets for WWE events, especially now in this era, is very difficult. Ticket prices have definitely gone up ever since Endeavor took over the company. But a lot of people, were bummed out at the fact they were returning to Las Vegas, and we're basically telling themselves, so you're telling me I basically have to probably waste more money than I did the previous year for WrestleMania by going to the same freaking venue, that being, of course, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. No shade against Las Vegas, but Las Vegas in general is a very, very, very expensive tourist destination, especially now, considering everything that's going on in the economy. Las Vegas right now is really not as popular now as a lot of people make it out to be. And WWE is definitely suffering through the consequences regarding their ticket sales. But what's funny about this is that WWE is actually offering huge WrestleMania ticket discounts amid reports of low sales. I'm reading this from the takedown on Sports Illustrated. They stated this, and I quote, "If you're planning on attending WWE WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas this April, now might be a good time to grab your tickets. There have been multiple reports released this week surrounding WWE's concern over ticket sales for this year's Showcase of the Immortals. This morning's report says that there is so much concern about current ticket sales that the company is evaluating the entire WrestleMania 42 card." I'm going to stop right there. The fact that WWE is evaluating the entire WrestleMania 42 card, number one, on one hand, on one side of the fence, it is a good thing because WWE, we've heard reports about Triple H saying that there probably is, a lot of fan fatigue regarding some of the matches that they have been planning for WrestleMania 42. But at the same time, the reason why the tickets are so low for the show has nothing to do with the card. I know that sounds really stupid in hindsight, but it's true. The reason why ticket sales are doing so low is not because of the fact that the card is bad. We only have one match announced. There's only one match announced for WrestleMania 42, and that match is Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. We're probably going to be getting a rematch between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, or probably a triple threat match between Cody, Drew, and Jacob Fatu, considering Jacob Fatu is involved in that whole mix. But the reason why ticket sales are so low is not because of the fact that the card is bad. We only have one match announced. It's because of the fact that tickets are so freaking expensive that people are not willing to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars for front row seats for WrestleMania. Now, granted, front row seats for WrestleMania, even before TKO took over, have always been expensive because they're front row seats. Obviously, they're going to be expensive. But ever since Endeavor took over the company, and of course, WWE and UFC both formed TKO, the ticket prices have gone to an exorbitant amount. Like, we're talking about like the 30,000s, the 40,000 for front row seats. The cheapest seats you could possibly get for an average WWE show. For example, the last time they were at Madison Square Garden, which was, I believe, in November, in which they advertised John Cena's last time in Madison Square Garden. And this was, I believe, a couple of weeks before his last match at Saturday Night's Main Event. The cheapest seat that you could get was roughly around for like $200. Now, granted, that is in New York. New York is relatively expensive. Madison Square Garden is relatively expensive. But that is basically the norm for the majority of these WWE events. They're basically going the UFC route. And look, for UFC, it has been a success to them. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. People have been buying tickets for UFC events, even though they're so freaking expensive. But it doesn't shy away from the fact that fans are complaining about the fact that these tickets are so expensive. For WWE, I don't think that's going to be the case. And it's starting to show over here. The reason why ticket sales are not as good for this year is because of the fact that, number one, WWE completely exposed how greedy they were. Now, granted, I don't think they care about the fact that they've been exposed about how greedy they are. They really do not care about what you think. And fans, people say, oh, we're going to boycott WWE. Don't listen to those people, because these are the same people that buy thousands of dollars worth of tickets to go to these events. They will still buy. Even though they say that they will boycott, they will still buy. Because they're stubborn and miserable. But WWE does not care about what you think. They don't. Even before TKO came into the mix, they never cared about what you think. But continuing on with this Sports Illustrated report, as the old saying goes, where there's smoke, there's fire. This certainly appears to be something that to these reports, as Allegiant Stadium took to social media this afternoon to announce a 25% discount on WrestleMania 42 tickets this weekend. And they stated this, and I quote, "Holiday weekend offer. Get your seat at the table with 25% off tickets starting now through Monday, February 16th, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Don't miss out." And of course, it will be very interesting to see if this limited time discount can move some tickets for WWE's biggest show of the year. So the current card for WrestleMania 42 has slowly been coming together for the past couple of weeks, but the whole card is being evaluated. It's hard to know what will and won't change leading up to the event. Here's the current card announced for WrestleMania 42. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre versus the Men's Elimination Chamber match winner, the Women's Royal Rumble winner Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer or Jade Cargill, and the Women's Elimination Chamber winner Jade Cargill versus Jade, the Women's Elimination Chamber winner versus Jade Cargill or Stephanie Vaquer. Now, granted, the only match that has been officially announced for WrestleMania 42 has been Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Again, normally when they would announce a match like that, normally they would move a few tickets, considering both Roman Reigns and CM Punk are draws. I don't care what anybody says; both of those guys are needle movers. But at the same time, again, a large portion as to why these ticket sales are slow is because of the fact that just WWE is outpricing these fans. And also, you need to take this into consideration. It's not just WrestleMania 42. It's all of the events that are taking place around the weekend of WrestleMania 42. WrestleMania 42 is not just an event. People need to understand that it's very similar to the Super Bowl. Now, granted, the Super Bowl is way bigger, but, WrestleMania is normally a weekend-long event, in a sense that there's a lot of other events taking place, like the Hall of Fame, SmackDown, Raw, NXT has events. A lot of local independent wrestling promotions have their own shows, and of course, because they want to piggyback off of WrestleMania, which is smart business. But at the same time, fans want to go to those shows, and they're going to have to pay a lot of money as well. Not to mention travel. I assume a plane ticket to Las Vegas is not cheap, obviously. Food, hotels. I mean, imagine if you're taking a family, you're probably going to spend well over $1,000, probably more if you're taking a whole family. Not even $1,000. Way more than $1,000. It's crazy. Las Vegas is ridiculously expensive. It's insane. I would hear stories that people are spending well over $80 for just a drink, which is crazy. Again, it's Las Vegas, but still, it is stupid. But moving on, considering and continuing to talk about WrestleMania 42, WWE is basically coming out with a lot of restrictions in terms of WrestleMania, especially in the local Las Vegas area. I'm reading this from WrestleZone.com. Fans and local businesses hoping to attend WrestleMania 42 viewing party might have some trouble doing so this year. Each year, WrestleMania usually results in a watch-along parties in the host city, according to a report from Fightful Select, that might be in jeopardy when WrestleMania 42 comes to Las Vegas. The outlet notes that the distributor of the WrestleMania broadcast has informed several Las Vegas establishments that they won't be able to broadcast WrestleMania because of a new protocol. Normally, these establishments pay a licensing fee to broadcast the event, but there are also new restrictions in place for businesses within 50 miles of the event, which takes place at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. While unconfirmed, it is believed that this was done to increase ticket sales for WrestleMania 42. One source noted who spoke with Fightful believes that this new protocol undermines one major point of WrestleMania, which is to boost Las Vegas tourism. Another source said that some smaller scale businesses might try to bypass the new rule, but it would affect their UFC business as well. WWE did not respond to a request for comment on the new protocol. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about regarding this. Look, on one hand, when we talk about these things, what people need to understand is that some people need to you have to put yourself in the shoes of these corporate suits sometimes. You just have to sometimes. Why are they doing things like this? Again, they want to essentially basically tell all of those people saying, hey, if you want to watch WrestleMania, go buy a ticket to go watch WrestleMania. I was listening to Dave LaGreca, and he was talking with Tommy Dreamer regarding this issue, and he mentioned something about how the New York Giants, I believe back in the 70s or 80s, used to do something very similar in a sense that they weren't able to sell a lot of tickets for their own games for, the New York Giants. The New York Giants weren't able to sell a lot of tickets. So what they basically did was in that local area, they would basically ban a lot of these local businesses from broadcasting those shows and have their own viewing parties, considering the fact that they weren't selling too well. So they were like, hey, you want to watch our game? You're going to have to buy tickets, even though they weren't selling very well. So Dave LaGreca was definitely talking about that on Busted Open, which shout out to Dave LaGreca. He's very good at what he does. But WWE is doing something very similar. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to say this right here and right now. This is only going to backfire on WWE. I'm going to say this right here and right now. This is going to backfire tremendously. Why? Now, WWE WrestleMania 42 is not doing horrible. Like, it's not like the AEW levels of bad. And I know that's going to upset a lot of AEW fans, but hey, look. When AEW struggles to sell tickets, they struggle to sell tickets. Don't be like a lot of these delusional AEW fans on social media, because they're not really fans of wrestling. They're just tribalistic morons. But whenever AEW does bad business, like, it shows. WrestleMania 42 is still going to be considered a success. It's just, if you compare the numbers that they are doing this year compared to the numbers that they had been doing last year, it's definitely a significant decrease. I believe like a 30% decrease. Correct me if I'm wrong. But again, a large portion to that has to do with the fact that, number one, the product is just not as interesting right now. It just isn't. There's really no hype, even though, WWE can say, oh my God, things are exciting. We're doing record businesses. Imagine this. WWE constantly touts the fact that they are doing record business all the freaking time. Yet, if you watch the television show, the majority of the television shows are really boring. Like, if you watch SmackDown, it's very boring. Raw is significantly better than SmackDown, but again, the shows are boring. When you watch the PLEs, I was in a way, I was kind of in denial about, the commercialization of WWE, especially when they first started to do it, because I was a big advocate of that. I was like, hey, I'm a big fan of the fact that the ring mat has sponsors on the mat. I think it's a cool presentation, in my opinion. When WWE first started to do that, I thought it was pretty dope, and I still like the fact that they do that. And the fans, if you are upset about WWE having sponsors on the ring mat, and you watch New Japan, you are a hypocrite. AEW does the same thing. But as 2025 went along, and you were starting to watch the product more and more, we constantly got commercials every freaking minute. Okay, now I'm exaggerating, not every minute, but almost like every couple of minutes, like after, like in between matches, like you would talk about, like, look at Survivor Series. When we watch Survivor Series, There was only like 4 matches announced on the card. And in between those matches was just commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial. Look, I understand you want the audience to breathe. Like, it's crazy. WWE gives you significantly less for these quote-unquote premium live events. They're not really premium at this point. Because you're paying $30 a month for just commercials. But it's weird. WWE gives you they give you the bare minimum in terms of their match card for their PLEs, and AEW gives way too much for their pay-per-views. It's crazy. They do the complete opposite, and both are wrong. There needs to be a certain balance in terms of the amount of matches you can have for a certain pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? But WWE definitely over-commercialized its product ever since TKO took over. And it showed tremendously in 2025. And it's going to continue to show even more and more and more. It's just how it is, because at the end of the day, TKO is a business. But in terms of WrestleMania 42, the fact that, they're basically banning a lot of these local businesses within 50 miles from where WrestleMania is going to be taking place, that being Allegiant Stadium, is mind-boggling to me. This is only going to turn people off. This is only going to have people rebel, unfortunately. Look, the reason, there's one reason as to why tickets are going super low for WrestleMania 42. There's only one reason. And that reason is pure greed. I constantly talked about this on this show. The only reason, it's WWE Endeavor's and TKO's own fault that ticket sales are not doing so well for WrestleMania 42. It's their own fault. It's their own fault. Interested in the product is relatively, I don't want to say at an all-time low, but, when there's more aura farming on the show, clearly you got a problem. WWE has become a product where there's just way too much aura farming. I'm sorry. Everybody uses the term aura, and I like using that term too, but when you constantly aura farm way too much on your own product, you got a problem. You do. And fans are starting to notice the BS. They are starting to notice the BS. Interest for the WWE product is starting to dip down. And it also begs the question, is this boom period starting to come to an end? I've always said this about boom periods, and I've said the same thing about AEW, because let's be honest, AEW was riding high from 2019 to 2021. The cracks started to show in 2022, and they fell significantly. And they went down and down in business year over year from 2022 to 2025. Now, granted, are they still doing great business in terms of ticket sales? You can say yes, you can say no. But I will say this, them going to smaller venues definitely helped them out a lot, because the show got significantly better. I genuinely believe AEW as a product is more watchable than it was in the beginning of last year and even in 2024. I think 2024 was the lowest point in AEW's 6+ year history. I genuinely believe that 2024 was a horrible year for AEW, in my opinion. Them showing the CM Punk footage was like the cherry on top. Just like CM Punk coming into AEW was the cherry on top for them in terms of success, them showing the footage of CM Punk was also the cherry on top in terms of just pure stupidity and making them look bad. AEW still makes mistakes, but AEW is doing significantly well, in my opinion. Now, are they perfect? Hell no. But they're doing significantly better. In terms of WWE is just going to keep commercializing. They don't care. They don't care about the audience experience. They don't care about the fan experience. It's crazy. Everybody's making these comparisons about Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon wouldn't do this, wouldn't do that. Vince McMahon's a piece of crap. I don't care what anybody says. Vince McMahon's not perfect. And no, I do not advocate for the return of Vince McMahon. And if you're one of those people that advocate for the return of Vince McMahon, you are the problem. You are the problem. Because you do not know what you want. You do not know what you want. But I will say this. Vince McMahon never outpriced his fans. I'm not defending Vince McMahon in any way, shape, or form. I hate the guy. I don't like the guy. But he never outpriced his fan base. And no, I'm not going to point the blame at Triple H either. Because Triple H has to deal with this crap. He's just working for a bunch of suits and ties in the TKO Endeavor threshold. He's only the head of creative. That's all he's doing. That's his job. Is he perfect at it now? No. We praised him a couple years ago, but that praise starts to wear off. Tony Khan dealt with the same thing. Everybody praised Tony Khan in the beginning, but then when the CM Punk stuff started to happen, everybody was like, is this real? Is this guy really that serious? Like, is he really that serious? I'm a fan of Tony Khan. I'm still a fan of his, but he's not perfect. Just like Triple H, he's not perfect either. I don't know, man. WrestleMania 42, the ticket sales for WrestleMania for WrestleMania 42 are not doing so well because of WWE's greed. That's all I have to say. The fact that you're outpricing your fan base, the fact that you left New Orleans because you got paid more money by Las Vegas. You basically backed out of a deal to go to another city because you're getting paid more money. That's the only reason as to why WWE is going to Vegas. They got paid more money by Las Vegas. And it sounds shady, but clearly New Orleans got screwed. They got screwed. Oh, but it's legal. Just because something is legal does not make it right. Remember that. Remember that. Just because something is legal does not make it right. People love to say, oh, but it's legal, so there's no problem. Just because it's legal does not make it right. They tend to correlate those two things together. But it's not right, in my opinion. The fact that WWE backed out of the deal like that and went to Las Vegas is ridiculous. And you know what this tells me? You know what fears this gives me? What the hell is going to happen next year when WrestleMania is going to be in Saudi Arabia? Because we're getting WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia next year. We are. We're getting WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia next year. And we watched the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble was not a bad show, but it wasn't really the best show that we've ever seen. And the build for the Royal Rumble was not the best that we've ever seen either. They barely promoted that show. What the hell is going to happen with WrestleMania next year considering they're going to Saudi Arabia? Why is WrestleMania coming to Saudi Arabia, I might ask? Money. That's why. Everything's about money to these people. And I get it. It's a business. If you're running a business, the number one priority has to be money, unfortunately. But when's enough? There's a certain limit to everything. You know what I'm saying? WWE's basically telling you, the audience, you're sheep. And you're going to buy these tickets whether you like it or not. Imagine spending $30-something thousand, $40,000, almost $50,000 on a VIP package. You are the biggest mark I have ever seen in my entire life. I don't care what anybody says. You are sheep and you are the biggest mark I've ever seen. And no, I'm not saying that because I'm jealous. If you're rich, bro, spend your money. But again, even if I'm rich, $30-something thousand on a VIP package to me is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like, really? You're spending that amount of money for a VIP package like that for a WrestleMania? Yes, you got a photo with Triple H, and look, that's great stuff, but like $30,000, $40,000? That amount of money? Come on now. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know, man. I don't know. But WrestleMania 42 is not doing so well in terms of ticket sales. I have no sympathy for WWE. That's just my opinion on the whole matter. Comment down below. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on these ticket sales being not significantly low, but not doing as well as they were last year for WrestleMania, considering they are going to be in Las Vegas for the second consecutive year in a row? Comment down below. All right, let's talk about Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker is in the news, and WWE, from what it looks like, confirms that Bron Breakker is out indefinitely due to an injury that he suffered on the February 2nd episode of Raw. I'm reading this from Yahoo Sports, but the original source, or the story, is from WrestleZone. All right, Bron Breakker, who is basically kind of on the threshold into becoming one of the big stars of WWE in the next couple of years. I mean, let's be honest, this guy is going to be a future WrestleMania main eventer. I don't care what anybody says. Bron Breakker is the freaking man. He is. He's the man. He's going to be a future WrestleMania main event guy. But WWE had just confirmed that Bron Breakker will be sidelined for the foreseeable future. On Monday, multiple outlets reported that Bron Breakker had surgery after suffering a hernia last week. WWE confirmed Breakker's injury on Monday night as Michael Cole began the show explaining what happened to Bron Breakker. They stated this, and I quote, We start the night with breaking news in regard to Bron Breakker of The Vision. Bron Breakker was injured while training last week. I'm not even quite sure what the injury is, but he did undergo surgery, and Bron Breakker will be out of action indefinitely. Cole's version greatly differed from what is being reported by the Wrestling Observer, that being F4WOnline.com and PWInsider.com, as well as Fightful. According to those reports, Breakker suffered a hernia while flipping the commentary table over on the February 2nd episode of Raw on Netflix. It was also noted that Breakker had surgery for the injury. However, it is unclear when he returned to WWE television. Now, how will this affect WWE programming? Bron Breakker was reportedly set to face Seth Rollins in a singles match at WrestleMania 42. A lot of people are assuming that that guy in the mask that attacked Bron Breakker at the Royal Rumble was Seth Rollins. I do not know for sure, but it really all depends on the injury status of Seth Rollins. It could be him. I remember denying that it was Seth Rollins, but now from what it looks like, it's probably Seth Rollins, but that could be very different. We do not know, but he was reportedly set to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 42. Recovery from the hernia repair surgery normally takes about 4 to 6 weeks, but as it has been noted, his return time frame is still up in the air. Fightful noted that despite Breakker being sidelined, WWE is still optimistic he could be back for WrestleMania 42. The outlet also noted that Bron Breakker was complimented by one source for working through the pain during last week's Raw segment. Okay, in terms of Bron Breakker, I don't care what anybody says, this is a big blow. This really is. It's a terrible blow to say the least because sorry about that. It's a terrible blow to say the least because let's be honest, Bron Breakker, again, the work that Bron Breakker has been doing in the Vision, I don't care what anybody says, has been tremendous. Like, tremendous work. This guy is so good at what he does in terms of his promo ability and the stuff he does in the ring. I mean, like, bro, and I'm not saying this because he has one of the best spears in the business. You know, before Bron Breakker came in the Threshold, I've always said the best spear of the business was always Ricky Starks. Or Ricky Saints now. I still call him Ricky Starks. But when in AEW, man, whenever he would hit those spears, those were clean as hell. You know what I'm saying? Those spears were clean as hell. But Bron Breakker really kind of took the Threshold to have like the best spear in the business. I'm sorry, Edge, but Bron Breakker got the best spear in the business. But the work that Bron Breakker has been doing in the Vision has been fantastic. A lot of people even said like, oh, he should have won the title from CM Punk on the first Raw on Netflix in January. Say what you want about that. It is what it is, but there's no denying that Bron Breakker is a future WrestleMania main eventer. And he was definitely set in stone to really be a part of the WrestleMania 42 plans. And it looks like WWE is going to have to scramble once again. You know, WWE has been scrambling they've been scrambling in terms of this card for WrestleMania for a while now. You know, and with the ticket sales being low for WrestleMania and Bron Breakker now being on the injury list, this really is a big blow. It really does suck. It really, really does suck because, again, it affects the plans for WrestleMania in a major way. Again, we do not know his time frame to return. We do not know when he's going to return. But, I mean, it's he had to undergo surgery. I believe it was a hernia injury that he suffered. So, I mean, those are really serious injuries. So we're going to have to wait and see. But, I mean, in terms of Bron Breakker, man, again, this is a big blow. And if that masked man was Seth Rollins, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? Are we going to get that Bron Breakker versus Seth Rollins match? Depending on the time frame of his return, I doubt we're going to be getting this match. It really all depends on whether or not Bron Breakker is ready to return or not, but we're going to have to wait and see. Again, this is a major blow, and it does suck for Bron Breakker, and his presence is definitely going to be felt since he's now going to be absent from WWE programming. All right. Now, let's move over to AEW. 32 minutes into the WrestleHavoc podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. It is Sunday, February 15th, 2026. We're going to be talking about Grand Slam Australia. Yes, AEW had Grand Slam Australia. It was not a pay-per-view. It was a special episode of Collision. Now, granted, when you go on HBO Max and you try to look for the show, you got to go on the sports section, and Grand Slam Australia is labeled under AEW Collision, so it makes you harder to look for that show. But one thing I will say about Grand Slam Australia is the card was stacked. It was stacked. It was a really good card, in my opinion. And it really, it made me come to the realization, in my opinion, that the name, the brand of Grand Slam, they had 2 Grand Slams, I believe, last year. They had Grand Slam Australia and Grand Slam Mexico, and I assume they're going to be returning to Arena Mexico later this year for Grand Slam Mexico. Grand Slam, in my opinion, and I don't care what anybody says, Grand Slam, the name Grand Slam, the brand, the IP of Grand Slam is AEW's Clash of the Champions. It's AEW's Saturday Night's Main Event. That's what it is, in my opinion. Their Grand Slams is basically their Saturday Night's Main Event / Clash of the Champions. That's what it is. It's basically a pay-per-view level card on free television. It was Grand Slam is basically everything. Grand Slam, think about this. Grand Slam is everything that Battle of the Belts should have been. You guys remember Battle of the Belts? Like everybody, remember when they first announced Rampage? I believe it was the spring of 2021, and they were talking about quarterly specials on TNT, so everybody was assuming Clash of the Champions and all that type of stuff. Nope. Battle of the Belts ended up being a random show that nobody cared about. They just announced matches for Battle of the Belts, and boom, they just gave you those matches head on, and nobody cared about Battle of the Belts. And then once Collision started, they would just, put Battle of the Belts together with Collision. So they'd give you a 3-hour block. And honestly, those 3-hour blocks were dreadful because they were just super long shows. I'm tired of 3-hour wrestling shows. And if you look at the wrestling market right now, the landscape of wrestling in terms of wrestling on television, it's very saturated. We basically got wrestling almost every freaking day. We got Raw on Mondays. We got NXT on Tuesdays. We got Dynamite on Wednesday. We got TNA, if you watch TNA on AMC, on Thursday. We got SmackDown on Friday. And whether, on Saturday or Sunday, we probably got a WWE pay-per-view, an AEW pay-per-view, a UFC pay-per-view. And then, of course, we got Collision on Saturday if you watch Collision, which a lot of people do not watch Collision. Just look at the ratings. But, I mean, again, the wrestling market nowadays is very saturated. But Grand Slam is essentially, in my opinion, their Clash of the Champions, their Saturday Night's Main Event. By the level of these cards, I mean, this card is fantastic. This card was fantastic, in my opinion. But Grand Slam Australia, let's go through the results. The crowd was really good in Australia. Of course, AEW is going down under. But the opening match, Jon Moxley defeated, or he didn't defeat, I should say. We had Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita. We had a time limit draw. It was a really good opening match. We had, of course, a time limit draw. And this was a Continental title match. A lot of people thought, maybe Jon Moxley could lose to Konosuke Takeshita, but Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita dealt with a time limit draw for the Continental title. We had the Babes of Wrath defeating Megabad, the Babes of Wrath that being Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, defeating Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford to retain their women's titles. And also, by the way, AEW had a House Rules house show. And guess who showed up? Guess who made their AEW debut? The Inspiration, or the Iconics. You gotta be joking me. Yes, the Iconics made their AEW debut on that house show in Australia. So they're all elite. But the Babes of Wrath retained their women's tag team titles. We had the number 1 contenders match. The winner will face MJF for the AEW World title at AEW Revolution on March, I believe, was it the 15th or the 16th? But we had Hangman Adam Page taking on Andrade El Idolo. And this was a really good match as well. I got to say this, man. Ever since all that legal lingo with Andrade in, WWE and AEW, when AEW brought back Andrade, they have booked Andrade like $1 million freaking bucks. I mean, they have been showcasing Andrade significantly well. Now, granted, we're still kind of in that honeymoon phase of, them bringing in a new talent, but this feels different because Andrade came into AEW all the way back in 2021, and he was kind of lost in the shuffle from the get-go. Like, how many different managers they put Andrade with? Like, it's like they had no idea what to do with Andrade. But now, by pairing him with the Don Callis family, now granted, when they first paired him with the Don Callis family, everybody was like, oh my God, he's paired with the Don Callis family. Why is he a part of the Don Callis family? I'm going to be honest, man. He's a great asset to the Don Callis family, and they booked him like $1 million throughout this whole, quote unquote tournament for the world title at Revolution. I mean, dude, the amount of guys that he beaten Kenny Omega. I mean, this guy's beaten a lot of dudes already coming into AEW. I mean, people may be upset about Andrade losing to Hangman Page, but I mean, if you look at the scope of things, Hangman Page versus MJF is a much bigger match than Andrade versus MJF. And Andrade, I mean, even though, the fans are loving Andrade, even though he's a part of the heel group, Andrade, in my opinion, is still kind of a heel. So you're going to have that heel versus heel dynamic at Revolution as the main event? No, it makes no sense. Also, Hangman Page has more history with MJF. So it made total sense as to why Hangman Page got the win over Andrade. And it's not like they buried Andrade. And I've always talked about this on this particular show, but wrestling fans always tend to believe that whenever somebody loses, they get buried. No, that is not what a burial is. If a wrestler gets buried, that means they looked bad in the process. Andrade did not look bad in the process in this match. He did not look bad. I don't care what anybody says. He did not look bad in the process. He looked strong, even though, he missed that low blow, but it is what it is. Hangman Page was the right guy to win. He was the right guy. Hindsight's 2020. Hangman was the right guy to win. Also, not only that, it's crazy how time works. Last year, MJF and Hangman Page were the opening match at Revolution, and now they are going to be the main event at Revolution. So that's going to be a great sight to see. This is going to be their third match. So I believe they wrestled back in like 2019 in AEW, but in terms of like this current feud that, Hangman Page and MJF have been having, or the feud that they had started early last year, they had a match at Revolution, they had a match at Forbidden Door, and now they're going to have the world title match at Revolution. And this match, in my opinion, and the main event, of course, is going to be Hangman Page versus MJF. This match is going to basically solidify MJF as the man. Because imagine him getting a win over Hangman Page. I mean, again, it's going to solidify MJF as an even stronger heel as the world champion. Because I don't think MJF is going to drop the title to Hangman Page. He's not. He's not going to drop the title back to Hangman Page. He's most likely going to drop the title at Wembley Stadium in August. That's what I see happening, in my opinion. It all depends on what the landscape is going to look like. I mean, again, one of the things I like about AEW now, especially in terms of the product, is the fact that their main event scene is super stacked. Like, stacked as hell. They got everybody gunning for MJF, and that's how you're supposed to book your main event scene. Everybody is supposed to go after the world champion, because the world champion, that guy holding the belt, is holding the top prize in the promotion. That's how it's supposed to be. And everybody's gunning after MJF, and I love the story that they're telling there. Also, we had, later on in the show, Hangman Page signing the contract in front of MJF's face, considering MJF always hesitated to sign that contract. But it is what it is. But we got Hangman Page defeating Andrade El Idolo, and the main event is set for Revolution. It's going to be MJF versus Hangman Adam Page at Revolution. Revolution is going to be a stacked card nonetheless. I'm very excited to see what the hell is going to be happening at Revolution in a couple weeks. But the loser gets their head shaved, or the loser who gets pinned gets their head shaved. We had Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm defeating Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta, with Tony Storm pinning Wheeler Yuta. Yes, Tony Storm pinned Wheeler Yuta. And obviously, once they announced that whoever lost the match, whoever got the pin, whoever took the pin was going to get their head shaved, everybody knew it was going to be Wheeler Yuta. And Wheeler Yuta, I mean, look, I have long hair myself, and I think my hair is luscious. But dude, Wheeler, you got to cut that hair because you just look terrible with that long hair. I am sorry. You look a little sketchy with that long hair. Look, everybody goes through their emo phase, right? Everybody goes through their emo phase, but sometimes when somebody goes a little overboard, they go overboard. I'm sorry, Wheeler Yuta, it was a little overboard. I didn't like that hairstyle. He looked much cleaner back in like 2022 when he first, started being a part of the Blackpool Combat Club. But Wheeler Yuta, he tried to run away, but Jon Moxley, being the reasonable leader that he is, told him a deal's a deal. Get your ass back in the ring and pay your dues. And Wheeler Yuta ended up getting his head shaved. So we got head shaven Wheeler Yuta, and honestly, I don't care what anybody says, it's a much better look for Wheeler Yuta than his long hair. Look, long hair looks better on some people. Long hair just does not look better on other people. And I'm sorry, and I mean this with the utmost respect, that long hair just did not look good on Wheeler Yuta. When the Death Rider stuff first started to happen in AEW, when that storyline started, Wheeler Yuta just looked ridiculous. I'm sorry. So Wheeler Yuta, this is a blessing in disguise. Okay, this is a blessing in disguise. We had the ladder match for the TNT title as Kyle Fletcher. Now, Kyle Fletcher, what the hell? I thought Tommaso Ciampa was the TNT champion. Well, this past Wednesday on Dynamite, Kyle Fletcher had a phenomenal match with Tommaso Ciampa. A phenomenal match. A lot of people are even considering that match to be a match of the year contender. Yes, a match of the year contender with Tommaso Ciampa and Kyle Fletcher. But shockingly, Kyle Fletcher got the win over Tommaso Ciampa, and I believe Tommaso Ciampa held that TNT title for like 11 days. 11 days he had that TNT title. And some people were like, that's kind of a stupid booking decision. Now, personally, I would have kept the TNT title on Tommaso Ciampa, but we sometimes forget what promotion we're watching. We're watching AEW. Whenever AEW goes to a market like Australia or London, they want to either crown a champion that is from that area or bring in a champion that is from that area. And the reason why they put the belt on Kyle Fletcher is because of the fact that he's from Australia. That's the reason why. No shade, by the way. I think Kyle Fletcher's great, and this guy's the future of AEW. I don't care what anybody says. He is going to be a future AEW world champion. Yeah, I said it. Kyle Fletcher is going to be a future AEW world champion. The investment that AEW has made throughout the past year in Kyle Fletcher has been tremendous as well. And this only solidified it. Now, granted, us getting another Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher match, I mean, how many matches we've seen with these guys? Like, what was it, 6 or 7? This is what, like the 7th match? Like, this ain't no best of 7 series, but like, how many matches we've been getting between Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe? Now, granted, they've had great matches. I was in attendance for one of them, that being Full Gear a couple of months ago. It was a great match that they had, but I mean, we got to move away from Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. Like, we've seen everything that they're able to do. Let's move on to something different. I assume Tommaso Ciampa is going to have some sort of involvement in the TNT title scene, considering he lost the title, and I assume he wants to go after Kyle Fletcher, and he wants to get a rematch with Kyle Fletcher. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but it was a really good match. And then, of course, in the main event, we had the world title on the line as MJF was defending his title against Brody King. Brody King, of course, there's a lot of talk around Brody King, a lot of mainstream attention on Brody King, considering the fact that every time when, especially with that first match with MJF, in which basically Brody King basically squashed MJF, there was a lot of F-Ice chants in the crowd, and it sparked a lot of mainstream attention on a lot of news outlets like Fox News, CNN, the political outlets, those guys. I mean, it's not really news nowadays. I mean, it's all like political opinion whenever you watch those networks, whatever side you line in between. But on both sides, it's always like a political opinion. They don't really give you the actual news, in my opinion, but it is what it is. Yeah, man, he sparked a lot of attention. And actually, we're going to be talking about that because that's going to be our next topic in terms of Brody King. So Brody King was in the news, and Dave Meltzer, and look, I respect Dave Meltzer for what he does. I respect Dave Meltzer for what he does, but at the same time, I think sometimes, some of the assumptions that Dave Meltzer makes is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, it just is. I mean, first off, look, he basically stated that considering the political climate that we are in, like you don't want to be on Donald Trump's bad side. He basically made the assumption that Warner Brothers Discovery was the reason why he wasn't on AEW television. So I'm reading this from the takedown on Sports Illustrated. Brody King did not appear on Wednesday night's episode of AEW Dynamite in Ontario, California, but Warner Brothers Discovery claims that his absence had nothing to do with the F-Ice chants coming out of their airwaves. Now, why were they chanting F-Ice during a Brody King match? Well, it's because on social media, and even in the ring, like he would always have shirts talking about like abolish ICE and all that. Look, your political opinion is your political opinion. That is it. I'm not going to go political on here because, again, it's not my place. Again, it's you believe what you want to believe. It is what it is. But he was coming out with abolish ICE shirts, I believe, and fans were chanting F-Ice. And if you guys know the political climate, of course, that sparked a lot of conversation within a lot of people. Despite the fact he's just a couple of days away from headlining Grand Slam Australia, which he did last night. And, of course, in a report by the Wrestling Observer Thursday morning, he said that King was blocked from being booked on Wednesday night. It was the decision that Dave Meltzer said came from above AEW president Tony Khan's head and stemmed from concerns that the Ontario crowd would pick where the Las Vegas crowd left off regarding a very public display against immigration and customs enforcement. You know what it is, and this is a quote by Dave Meltzer. You know what it is. Nobody wants to get on President Trump's bad side. If it wasn't for that, nobody would care. It's just a chant. But unfortunately, Warner Brothers Discovery are trying to sell and get regulatory approval from a guy who is going to take that stuff personal. Those F-Ice chants from the February 4th edition of AEW Dynamite ended up making national headlines. Neither King nor AEW Men's World Champion MJF was on Wednesday night's episode of Dynamite. A video package hyping up their title fight on Grand Slam Australia was aired instead. Warner Brothers Discovery then denied pulling Brody King from AEW programming. In the hours after that Wrestling Observer report came out, the takedown on Sports Illustrated spoke to a source at Warner Brothers Discovery who denied that the company had any involvement with keeping Brody King from appearing on AEW Dynamite. The company has since released the following statement. They stated this, and I quote, Warner Brothers Discovery did not have any involvement in Brody King's upcoming AEW schedule. Any speculation to the contrary is categorically false. Brody King is scheduled to appear during the next AEW event, which will air this Saturday on TNT and HBO Max. Nice little plug over there. The takedown on Sports Illustrated had reached out to representatives of AEW in an official capacity for the comment, but have yet to hear back. Now, apparently, Fightful did, I believe, Fightful has a bunch of sources, but like Fightful did, I believe, come out with an update, and they did state, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of people in AEW even had denied, like they even like, denied that Warner Brothers Discovery even, banned Brody King from appearing on the show. So take that as you will. But this is my thing on this whole situation. People are saying Dave Meltzer lied, and he very well could lie. Or maybe it was an assumption made by Dave Meltzer. Who knows? But I'm going to go even deeper than that. Because false information, in my opinion, has always been an issue in AEW. Because it always escalated into much bigger issues that the company dealt with. Primarily with like CM Punk and all that stuff. Because again, like a lot of people love to say a lot of crap to the dirt sheets, and some of that stuff can be false information. Just because a dirt sheet stated something, whether that is a Fightful, a PW Insider, a Dave Meltzer, whenever they say something, you always have to take them with a grain of salt. Even though they are reliable sources, mostly the Fightfuls and the PW Insiders, they are more reliable sources nowadays in 2026 than the Dave Meltzers of the world. And Dave Meltzer, could get a lot of things right, but he also could get a lot of things wrong. But still, even though those sources, that being the Fightfuls and the PW Insiders of the world, are very reliable, you still have to take them with a grain of salt. I'm going to make this assumption now. And I hope nobody quotes me on this because, again, this is just speculation on my end because I know a lot of wrestling fans love to speculate a lot of crap, but I'm gonna speculate this right here and right now. Look, I genuinely believe that there is a mole in the AEW locker room. Yeah, there is a mole in the AEW locker room. Somebody is spreading all this BS information with all the drama that we used to hear a couple of years ago from the AEW locker room. We don't see a lot of drama nowadays. Like nowadays, they're kind of more safe in terms of like whenever they deal with drama, they immediately like squash it. But before like 2022, 2023, bro, drama was running rampant in that locker room. And it all stemmed of people spreading false information to the dirt sheets. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is going to escalate into anything. I'm not going to say that right here. I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying, who told Dave Meltzer that Warner Brothers Discovery banned Brody King? Or was it an assumption that Dave Meltzer just made? Who knows? But I don't know. It's just an assumption on my end. I may be totally wrong, and most likely 99% of the time I am. But you never know in terms of these types of stories. I mean, again, who is giving Dave Meltzer this information? Again, it's probably an assumption by Dave Meltzer, but still, it is what it is. But again, I just wanted to bring that discussion up there because, again, we hear stories like this, and the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery immediately came out, or I should say Sports Illustrated came out or asked them and they denied it, and then Warner Brothers Discovery issued a statement, speaks volumes about this whole situation. So clearly something's up. And also, why would AEW, put their television partner through the ringer like that? I doubt they would do that. Even they themselves denied that, no, Warner Brothers Discovery had nothing to do with it. I don't know. It's a very, very weird situation, but Warner Brothers Discovery did not ban Brody King from AEW television. That's really stupid if you really think about it. It's dumb. Because, yeah, look, he's wearing shirts that say abolish ICE, but clearly that shows his political opinion, but who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not like AEW as a whole, is one big political agenda, because it's not. Even in WWE as well. Because WWE, yes, they lean heavily towards President Trump, but that's like the top brass. We don't know what the talent believes. I mean, you had Becky Lynch talking about how she doesn't like ICE. Okay, that's your political opinion. So why are you going to ban somebody for their political opinion? You know what I'm saying? Doesn't matter what you believe, whether you're right or left. It doesn't matter. You believe what you want to believe. This is America. You know what I'm saying? Freedom of speech. It is what it is. But in terms of this, Warner Brothers Discovery did not ban Brody King. It just makes no sense. Why would they do that? And the fact that they even issued a statement goes to show you that they didn't do it either. Continuing with Grand Slam Australia, of course, MJF defeated Brody King. Obviously, Brody King was not going to go over in this match. He just wasn't. It would make no sense for Brody King to win the AEW World Championship. And I like Brody King. I'm a fan of Brody King, but he was not going to win the AEW World Championship. He wasn't. He was not. So MJF won and retained the AEW World Championship. So what are my thoughts on Grand Slam Australia? Really good show. I definitely enjoyed it for what it was. These Grand Slam shows are really good. Now, the confusion about these Grand Slam shows, the fact that they're on free TV and not pay-per-views, I mean, it's a little ballsy move by AEW, but still, I mean, I can remember when they first announced the first Grand Slam Australia 2 years ago, I believe around All In 2024, everybody immediately assumed that was going to be a pay-per-view, but it wasn't. But in terms of these Grand Slam shows, again, I'm going to say this right here and right now, these shows are basically their Clash of the Champions. The Grand Slam shows are their Saturday Night's Main Event and Clash of the Champions. This is basically everything that, essentially Battle of the Belts should have been, but that's just me. But Grand Slam Australia, I definitely enjoyed the show. The crowd was great. Enjoy the crowd. The crowd there definitely had a blast. One thing I will say, AEW definitely does need to improve on their merchandising department, because clearly, and from the stories that I heard, their merchandising in Australia is ridiculous. Like, if you look at the merch stands over at Australia for this event, god awful, just horrible. But they really need to fix that. But yeah, that was Grand Slam Australia. Moving on to our final topics on this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast. We're going to be talking about Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers Discovery, apparently, and this has been a big talking point throughout the past however many years, a lot of fans are speculating that Warner Brothers Discovery holds a minority stake in AEW. And CNN basically, essentially, in a way, kind of confirmed it. CNN is basically a company under the Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella. I'm reading this once again from the takedown on Sports Illustrated. Since its inception back in 2019, AEW has been synonymous with Tony Khan and the billionaire Khan family, but that hasn't stopped speculation around its ownership. After launching that in January, AEW signed a broadcast deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, and 2 further deals have followed. The latest was inked in October of 2024 and will run through 2027 with 1 additional option year. That agreement is believed to be worth around $170 million per year. This relationship between AEW and WBD had regularly led speculation to that agreements extend beyond a wrestling company and its broadcast partner. The central claim is that WBD holds an ownership stake in the promotion, although this has never been publicly acknowledged. But crucially, the claims have never been fully denied either. In many interviews, Tony Khan would even state, like, I own 100% of the company. But further and further on down the line, there was more proof that WBD did have a small stake in the company. Tony Khan had originally regularly stated that he has 100% decision-making responsibility and 100% of the voting stock. Warner Brothers Discovery apparently holds some stock or some interest in AEW. A new article from the Michael Babylon for CNN has now appeared to confirm that Warner Brothers Discovery does hold a minority stake in AEW. Balaban made the claims while discussing professional wrestling's relationship with politics and how that differs between AEW and WWE. He stated this, and I quote, "The embrace of contrary issues is part of a larger politically shaded rivalry playing out in the industry between the 7-year-old AEW and the industry's ruling juggernaut for generations, WWE. And in parentheses, they put out Warner Brothers Discovery, CNN's parent corporation, owns a minority stake in AEW. Although the article from CNN makes no mention of the size of the stake, a report from the Hollywood Reporter in January suggested that any ownership interest would be less than 10%. This would also mean that there's no legal requirement on either side to publicly disclose it. The comments come after the relationship between AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery was again under the spotlight after claims that Brody King was blocked from appearing on the February 11th edition of Dynamite. His absence came after the crowd erupted into an F Ice chant in a week earlier as King prepared to face MJF at Grand Slam Australia. Video of the pre-match reaction went viral on social media and garnered national media attention. However, Warner Brothers sources later denied that the company had played any role in King's AEW schedule. King was set to meet with MJF for a second time, or is set to meet, and he already did, for a second time at Grand Slam Australia, but this time the AEW World Championship will be on the line. In the aforementioned Eliminator match, King destroyed the champion in a little over a minute. Okay, so this sparked a lot of conversation, and I have to talk about it because a lot of other people are talking about it, and I don't want to be seen as biased or anything, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I do believe, at first I was in denial about it, but as more and more of these stories start to come around, I do believe Warner Brothers Discovery owns a small, and I mean a significantly small, investment in AEW. Like, they own a small stake in the company. Now, if you're AEW now, keep in mind, it's 2019. You're a startup national wrestling promotion that's wanting to go on national television, and you're unproven yet. Yes, the first All In happened, and if if you really think about it, the first All In was basically the prototype or the precursor to what would become All Elite Wrestling. The first All In, the 2018 All In, was basically the precursor to what AEW is now. The first All In, was like the only piece of footage that they were able to show. But AEW did not produce that show. That show, the first All In, was a Ring of Honor, a Sinclair-owned Ring of Honor produced show. People forget about that. The first All In was basically had the production values of Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor before Tony bought the company. But if you're AEW in 2019 and you're a promotion that is unproven, I would assume Warner Brothers would want to have a small stake in the company. That's just me. Because again, it's a gamble that Warner Brothers Discovery is taking on this small little promotion. Obviously, when you're dealing with somebody like that, of course you want to, get things straight. And that first deal that AEW had, I believe was an ad split. Like that first initial deal before they signed that extension in January of 2021 or January of 2020, it was an ad split. So, I mean, obviously, at this point, I've come to the belief that AEW does, or I should say Warner Brothers Discovery holds a small stake in AEW, but it is, I genuinely believe, less than 10%. Less than 10%, definitely. I don't think they have the power to make big, giant decisions. That's just me, but 100% Tony Khan is making those decisions. It's a small stake that Warner Brothers Discovery owns. They don't own 50% of the company. They don't own 20%. I genuinely believe the Hollywood Reporter, and I do believe that they probably own less than 10%. And Tony Khan owns the majority of the quote-unquote voting power, which is weird because, again, AEW is not a publicly traded company, but it is what it is. Maybe I'm saying BS from the top of my head, but yeah, Warner Brothers Discovery owns a small stake in AEW. I genuinely believe that. All right, in our final stories, AEW announces the on-sale dates for All In. Yes, All In. All In is going to be taking place at Wembley Stadium, and a lot of people were basically assuming, because before they announced this, if you go on the Wembley Stadium website, even though AEW themselves announced the show a couple of months back, if you go on the Wembley Stadium website, you couldn't see All In. Like, you were able to type in the date of when the show is, and they'd show you the list of events that Wembley Stadium would have, and All In was nowhere to be found. But All In is still going to be taking place in Wembley Stadium, and the pre-sale date has been announced. AEW, and I'm reading this from Fightful's own website, AEW will return to Wembley Stadium for AEW All In on August 30th. Tickets will be available via pre-sale on Monday, March 16th. General public on sale begins Friday, March 20th, and fans can sign up for the pre-sale on that particular website. AEW All In was held at Wembley Stadium in 2023 and 2024, but moved to Globe Life Stadium in Arlington, Texas in 2025. No matches for the event have been officially announced. Now, it's very interesting considering basically All In is going to be taking, or the pre-sale for All In, I believe, is going to be taking place the day of or the day after Revolution 2026. So Revolution is going to be taking place on the 15th of March. So that the pre-sale takes place a day after Revolution. Now, again, I'm going to speculate this on my end. Again, do not quote me on this. This is just pure speculation on my end. Pure speculation. I genuinely believe that something big is going to happen at Revolution. Something big is going to be happening at Revolution. I do not know what is. I think there is a certain reason as to why tickets are going to start going on sale that late. Now, granted, it's just the pre-sale, but still, they're going to go on sale basically relatively later than normally. Because if you guys remember, the last time they went to Wembley Stadium and the last time they put out tickets for the 2024 Wembley show around November, December. I believe in December of 2023. So like a couple of months away from a whole year before tickets even went on sale. So they're putting tickets on sale in March, and the event is in August. It's a little late, a couple months late, but still very interesting. I think there's a certain reason as to why that's going to happen. Some people are speculating maybe an AJ Styles debut at Revolution. We're going to have to wait and see that. Again, that is just pure speculation on my end, but I think something big is going to happen at Revolution to the point where AEW really wants to capitalize on that buzz for All In at Wembley Stadium. That's what I see happening over there, but we're going to have to wait and see. So, yeah, tickets for AEW All In are going to be, of course, the pre-sale is going to be taking place on March 16th, and the tickets are officially going to be going on sale March 20th. In our final story, we're going to be talking about AEW Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing. We have the location for AEW Double or Nothing, and from what it looks like, AEW is going to be returning to New York City. Now, normally, Double or Nothing was a show that always took place in Las Vegas, but let's be honest, nobody wants to go to Las Vegas to travel for a wrestling show nowadays. So, AEW went to, I believe, Phoenix, Arizona last year for Double or Nothing, which was a smart move on their end, and Double or Nothing last year ended up being actually one of the best pay-per-views of the entire year for AEW, for the promotion itself. AEW is returning to New York City for Double or Nothing in 2026, according to Andrew Zarian. The company will hold its signature Double or Nothing event at Louis Armstrong Stadium. Now, I'm going to be honest, I had no idea what this stadium was, but it's basically a stadium similar to Arthur Ashe Stadium. This is the same stadium complex as Arthur Ashe Stadium, apparently, according to Andrew Zarian. And AEW brings one of its landmark pay-per-view events to New York City this spring. Double or Nothing is scheduled for Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York. So, yeah. We do not know the date. Apparently, the date is going to be probably May 25th. Correct me if I'm wrong. May 24th or May 23rd. May 25th actually falls on a Monday, so I assume it's probably going to be either May 23rd or May 24th. But yeah, what are my thoughts on this? I'm excited, and if God wants, I want to go. I want to go to AEW Double or Nothing. I mean, I've been to a bunch of AEW shows. The AEW pay-per-views I've only been to, I've been to 3 AEW pay-per-views, and all of those pay-per-views have been Full Gear. So it's going to be fun that they're bringing Double or Nothing to New York City. I mean, it was rumored for a while that they wanted to bring a pay-per-view to New York City. And of course, you know, if you want to go to New York City, you're going to have to book Madison Square Garden. But in terms of the nature of the business with WWE and Madison Square Garden, I doubt AEW wants to deal with all that legal lingo. But I mean, Louis Armstrong Stadium, which is basically a tennis stadium, it's a good platform for AEW Double or Nothing, and I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen there. But I'm definitely planning on going, man. You know, in terms of cities for Double or Nothing, you know, you would assume maybe if they didn't want to go the Vegas route, they could easily go Atlantic City because the Boardwalk Hall is over there, and it's a good size, it's a decent sized arena. You know, they've held Dynamite multiple times over there. You know, the Boardwalk Hall is not bad, but the fact that they're going to do it in New York City, I'm 100% down with it. So, yeah, man, Double or Nothing is going to be taking place in New York City. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast for Sunday, February 15th, 2026. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. We definitely talked about a lot of things on this edition of the WrestleHavoc podcast, but in terms of the all the wrestling news, there was a lot of news that we talked about, and I'm definitely curious to see what's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks regarding WrestleMania. In terms of AEW, of course, we got Revolution coming up, so I'm definitely excited about that. We also got the Elimination Chamber coming up, so that's going to be very exciting as well. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast, and this was, of course, I'm yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications. I mean, look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all in the next podcast, which is next week. Peace.